Mm, mm, Welcome, creatives, community, and kind folks, to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. Welcome to the Seat of Your Pants studio, where on this Future Friday, we talk about science fiction, modern, and maybe even little slightly less modern tabletop role-playing experiences, especially for the people out there. Hey there, Jay Jackson, everyone who takes part in the show live, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in my time zone, to be part of the show. And uh, for me, I love superhero role playing games. I love science fiction role playing games, and so I've devoted Fridays to Future Fridays for those enthusiasts. Even though some people may not admit it, or even others who want to get into it would like some ideas. And we often on this channel for the entire week we try to pick a theme, and the theme was to learn and steal some ideas from House of the Dragon. So again, this being the Seat of the Pants studio, I said, well, how do we take House of the Dragon and talk about it in the far future? I said, well, what about meeting aliens on Earth or having first contact or whatever? And those aliens are, air quotes, nice to us and give us things. Like in House of the Dragon, you got little fragile human beings making friends with big, powerful monsters. Well, what about human beings making friends with powerful aliens? And then I scratched my head and went, wait a minute, this concept has been done plenty of times. And so I thought we would talk about it. And some of those who are individuals of a certain age will remember uh, some of these like pop culture references back to television shows and movies and things like that. And maybe they're oldies, but not necessarily forgotten. And we're going to have some fun with this. Okay, so let me present to you my thesis, and then we're going to move on. So, alien first contact stories are nothing new. Um, Human beings have been thinking about first contact ever since they could travel over the horizon, far away from where they can see. Of course, alien contact and Area 51 and all that is first contact writ large. We're going to somehow, some way, we imagine ourselves having contact with aliens. And usually in a lot of these stories, it can be action based. Aliens arrive at Earth, they mean us harm, pew pew pew. We start having battle and we try to free ourselves from the tyranny of aliens that have traveled very far to take over our world, as if there aren't like other planetary systems in our own solar system that they could easily land on and have zero conflict with. But whatever. Okay. So we accept that. But a lot of times in storytelling, like especially a post-apocalyptic style storytelling, it's not about the aliens, it's about us. And when if and or when aliens arrive here and they become they are friendly. Yeah. Mike says aliens as friends. Are we talking ET or are we talking District 9? Aha. What are we talking about, right? Um and it doesn't necessarily mean that they are insidious um, in a torturous sense, meaning like, oh, we're friends for 5 minutes and then proceed to beat people about the head. And listen, we're going to bring up. Okay, let's bring the spoiler out. We're going to talk about V. We're going to talk about Earth Final Conflict. We're going to talk about Arrival and the movie Contact and other things like that. There's even it had a couple of 3 or 4 seasons, a television show called Colony. So, like post-apocalyptic stories where um, it's human beings that are the true monsters, even if you have zombies or something. In a lot of these alien contact, aliens aren't the bad guy stories. In many ways, it's us that is the issue, and it's a reflection of us and how we act and or react. And it can really you can really use this to show what people used to be like and what they really are when you start dangling uh, power in front of individuals. And especially when you have aliens that don't have the same human desires or needs, and then human beings trying to navigate around, well, what can I trade to the aliens to get what I want? And that can be, I think, that kind of concept you could use with, like, say, what is a game system like D20 Modern, all the way up to Far Future. Yeah, yeah, yeah. To Far Future Enemy Mine. Thank you very much there, Mike. Is a great way to say, "Hey, you know what, the aliens are important in creating the setting, but they're not so important as to now I have to learn all these brand new rules and about alien society and stuff." Usually it's human beings throw a monkey wrench into our society, and then how do we handle it? And I like those kind of stories, and I think that's something we can learn from it. And like the original season, first two seasons of Earth Final Conflict, which was a television show, the alien synods or Talons or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The Talons came to Earth, and they started within 3 years. The opening of the show is like they've been here for 3 years, and they started curing all other diseases and clearing up the atmosphere and giving us free energy and power and stuff. And the the suspicion that some humans had, but they didn't get the capabilities, they didn't have access to the capabilities that the aliens had, but the aliens were like, you owe us something. We're going to give this to you, but you got to be loyal to us. And I love the idea of that. Star Wars kind of Star Wars isn't like this, but Star Wars is light side, dark side is a perfect conundrum for this kind of element where the dark side isn't necessarily more powerful than the light side, but the dark side's a whole lot easier. And instead of human beings developing their own technology to try to bring ourselves up to the aliens, it might just be easier to go up to the aliens, knock on their door, and say, "Hey, listen, can I get some of what you got? And oh, by the way, I'll be nice to you and work for you for a limited amount of time." And as a matter of fact, in Earth Final Conflict was one of the shows that was a Gene Roddenberry show, and in it, human beings had like biotechnology like attached to their bodies, and they were a little bit half alien. So here's the thesis: aliens arrive on in the atmosphere of Earth. They are aloof. They are maybe a bit un uh, it's hard to approach them in a very simple manner. Maybe there's a language barrier. I'm looking at you, Arrival. Maybe there is a some kind of technological barrier. We're unable to hear or see them, or maybe they're so aloof that they really don't react to very many stimuli that Earthlings have. They're unimpressed with our artwork. All they have no consideration for national boundaries. They may not even have any consideration for governmental agencies. Um, Mike brings up alienation. Alienation is a great one where, much like District 9, aliens come to Earth and you find out that they're not much different than we are, technologically speaking or culturally speaking, right? And again, Alienation was a great show, and it came back twice, just like V had a reboot. The V version was pretty horrible, but with the Alienation that I believe came in, dipped out, came back again, was the aliens were different than us, but they weren't better than us. They was just different things, and it was and one of the characters had a bit of a saucy relationship with an alien, and having to navigate that whole thing. I think it's a great idea to do that. Maybe the aliens have particular capabilities that we don't, and usually we it devolves into laser guns, power armor, psychic abilities, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that way. Maybe they have alien pets and flora and fauna that they've brought with them to Earth, especially if the aliens are refugees unto themselves. A lot of times the some of these stories like District 9 and Alienation, the aliens are refugees from something else. Even in Earth Final Conflict, they kind of shifted and turned the story. It was rather random, but at a particular point, those aliens came to Earth to dominate. You find out that there's a plot because they wanted to dominate Earth, but really, what was happening is they were on the run from an even more powerful race, traveling across galaxies and dominating, and they were coming to Earth to make Earth a like a to stand like a vanguard to fight against the aliens, and they didn't have time to convince us. So they were basically like, yeah, here's a bunch of stuff. Just do what we tell you to do because we're going to save your lives. We're going to save your entire civilization. Um, some great stuff, some really great stuff. And I found this infographic that I think is pretty hilarious. And I want to I'm gonna post it up here so you guys can see it, and we could take a look at it while we continue talking. The 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 stealing from House of the Dragon portion of this, it could be maybe what was the television show? The television show was called not Fringe. Wow, wow, wow. Debris. One season, didn't make a lot of waves, but I really liked the concept. It was an impossible concept television show, but whatever. I didn't think it was going to last very long. I'm surprised it lasted one season. In the television show Debris, on the edge of our galaxy, scientists saw that there was an alien craft or something like that, and it broke up. And then, you know, quite a number of months later, debris started falling into our atmosphere, and then that's when people were, finding black market items and technologies that we didn't understand, and literal debris that was having a strange effects in our atmosphere, in our minds, brains, and it was telling stories about how the debris is being collected. And I think using a combination of those things is pretty cool. In the story of Enemy Mine, um, going back to Enemy Mine, there was a conflict between Earth and aliens. Now, this took place off of Earth, but it was, humanity against the aliens, and they didn't like each other. And it's a story of when two pilots crash land to survive in this world, they have to work together. And they had this long-standing rivalry with each other, and then come to find out that we're not much different. But having we're talking about role-playing games, and you know, players want to have cool stuff. And if it means that they get psychic powers, if it means they get laser guns and power armor, if it means that they get access to um, commanding strange alien plant life or animals or spacecraft or enhancements, bio or nanotech enhancements in their bodies, but they may lose a little bit of themselves, especially if they are trying to overcome other individuals who themselves are gaining benefits, maybe like a criminal organization, various governments, mercenary factions, corporations, and things like that. What a great way to like push and pull on the players. Like you can start giving more of yourself to get more abilities, but it's going to cost you. And what that cost is, does that mean you're going to lose your mind? Does that mean you won't recognize what you look like in the mirror? We're looking at you, District 9. Any of those things. So I love it. I love this. I at first I was like, I don't think I can find any ideas. Oh, wait a minute, there's 1,000 ideas. Mike says, here's a way back obscure reference that few know. Okay, Aliens versus Predator, the comic from the early '90s. I love that comic series. I didn't own any, but I know a friend and we used to read him stuff. Predators intentionally seed a distant mining colony with alien eggs. They do this to test young, unblooded warriors. Yeah, 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 yeah. There was the predators themselves were using the aliens, the xenomorphs. I'm going to call xenomorphs to seed places, and then they would test themselves against it. It's like, yeah, Defiance. Yeah. Oh, Dead Man brings up Defiance. Let's see. As the story goes, only one human survives, and she's of Japanese descent. In the end, only one human and one predator remain, fighting an entire hive. Wasn't that the basis of in the movie Sanaya Latham, the actress, ends up teaming up with one of the aliens. It kind of didn't work out right in the movie, but I remember the comic book being cool where she had like a shield made out of the skull of the xenomorph stuff scooped out. So yeah, anyway. Dead Man says Defiance, a sci-fi show that had a half dozen different races in an alliance that came to Earth seeking new resources and they terraform Earth into a new world. I did not take a look at Defiance, and I bet I could find that on um, a streaming service somewhere. But yeah, yeah, Defiance is a good one. I remember the image of Defiance had Salt Lake City. It was that huge arch, that was like half destroyed. It was had that post-apocalyptic look to it. That's the only thing I can remember from that show. I don't know much about it, but yeah, Defiance. An alien coalition comes to Earth, and you're just like, we need to borrow some space and live here. Um, Again, the show that I only took a look at like the first 3 or 4 episodes. Was it St. Louis? St. Louis. Yep, yep, yep. Not Salt Lake City. Yeah, it was St. Louis with the giant arch in it. Yeah. Thank you, Dead Man, for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, what if an alien coalition does come to Earth and they're like, normally the coalition's like, we're going to wait till human beings are fully space capable, but maybe they can't wait because there's a bigger threat out there, or aliens have something deeper within themselves that only we can solve, but we don't understand. Neither side understands how to solve that issue. And of course, in a role playing sense, you could absolutely positively start to start to mix and match and things. Like right now in my head, I can see using the 5e rule set right now and start to flip things over, flip it around, and twist it to recontextualize, modern day Earth with some kind of alien presence. I even tried to um, once considered like a Cthulhu-esque Cthulhu Rising on Earth, where Cthulhu and Lovecraftian beings either rose out of the sea or came from space or something, and they're wandering the surface of Earth, and human beings have like to survive. Many of them are looking at them as like idols. They're worshiping them. Others are like, listen, if we can't beat them, we got to join them. Whereas then there are other human beings that are subtly being affected, maybe getting, being driven insane with their power, but also awakening maybe psychic abilities and trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world where you have um, uh, mutated displacer beasts and beholders and mind flayer like creatures running around, which I think would be very cool. Mike says the movie that came many years later touched on this, but not to the same extent. Oh, about the Alien versus Predator. Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't that good, but it did touch on it, and it opened up, um, much like the movie Prometheus. It touched on it. You know, we blasted and we're like, oh, the movie Prometheus wasn't that good, but it did have some of the story elements were like maybe human beings. There's a thing known as panspermia, which is planets throughout our galaxy have had biological materials on them, and rocky elements of planets have collided and shattered and then become planets themselves and moved on to other round stars and gravity. And that some say that our genetic materials on our planet probably came from other places that also had biological genetic materials there, and that we may be related to aliens out in the outer world. What was it? There was another show called Space Above and Beyond, or Battlefield Earth, or I think it was Space. I can't. Anyway, you'll understand when I mention it, that there was a titanic battle between humans and aliens, and it had been going on for basically a generation, and you never get to see what the aliens really look like because every time they got shot, they would like melt inside of their armored suits and stuff. And but the show was actually written pretty good, and it wasn't really about the aliens. It was about having an eternal war and the price that we paid to have it. Mike's like, let's not talk about Prometheus and what followed, unless your topic is franchises that became shows. Yeah, Yeah, boom, 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 boom. I wish I had a sound foley for that one, like, uh-oh. But, but yeah, sometimes these shows didn't really make it, but gotta admit, like, at least they tried. At least they tried. I'm going to give them. I'll give them a single point for having tried to do that. Sorry, Tony Scott or the Scots. So this is a little funny infographic. I wish I could get this bigger. No, no, that's not going to work. All right, so but this one is pretty funny. It's like let's say for whatever reason you're the first human ever to make alien contact. Yes, I know, pretty unlikely. Probably isn't going to be you. That's a given, but it would be a good idea for us to spare a few minutes and think about it. Like why? Well, for one, most historians and scientists agree this would be the most important moment in all of human history. And then it goes on to some some other things like uh like first things first, hold the f still. And things like next up, finding a medium to communicate through, or show some damn humility. It's this is a pretty funny infograph. I'll let's see if I can. I'll put it in a link in there, um, link in the chat. It's pretty funny because I was looking up some things, and you get your average stuff, but yeah, yeah, pretty funny. Now, I think getting back to mechanics, specificity in role playing games, giving players limited access to some of the alien. Beginning of it would be like alien technology. Of course, there would be some player characters that want to play some aliens. If the aliens aren't much different than human beings, or not different, aren't much more advanced than human beings, they're just different. Looking at you, alienation. I don't think this would be a big deal. You just come up with whatever game system you're using. You come up with some capabilities that are a little bit different than human beings. There's the default human who is adaptable, and then you have aliens. Some aliens are psychic, some are tall, some are large, things like that. Some are amoeboid, um, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's there is there are those differences that you can come up with, and then you start getting into the classic sci-fi capabilities of higher technology, laser guns, blaster guns, powered armor, um, some maybe anti-gravity technology, doing twists on some of the technology, like instead of explosion grenades you've got implosion, you've got antimatter. Start using some big old uh, hard sci-fi elements and then twisting them a little bit, whether it's biotechnology or strong and weak forces, electromagnetism, things like that. And then we can start getting into some of the esoteric things like wormholes or anti-gravity, um, time travel, maybe ish. And I don't mean time travel like going back into the 1920s. I mean time travel like stasis units or accelerating time or time differentials, or being able to pass through solid objects, things of that nature. And then, of course, you got the classic psychic abilities: reading minds, psychic blast, illusions, mind control, and that. And if you want to get away from even that, you could make the aliens religious. You could maybe make the aliens have, maybe the aliens have been lying to humanity, and they really don't have that much power to begin with. Maybe they have limited resources, and they're just here to convince us that they even bother having those resources in the first place. I'm going to cheers. Forget my dirty face. Let's look at some other things. I'm over here on ArtStation. I typed in aliens on Earth. I don't know how much aliens and on Earth you're going to get to see some thumbnails, but whatever. Um, Also, because I'm talking about this is Future Friday. Uh, in talking about modern day gaming, I don't think it would be very much different than classic fantasy role playing, right? Because in fantasy role playing, you have basically isolated human beings, villages, and humanity starts to change when outsiders come and they've got dragons. And it wouldn't be much different for a modern setting. We know what modern settings are. We've got cell phones and automobiles, talking about present day. And then all of a sudden, aliens show up and they've got giant um, animals that they ride on, or their pets, or they begin to terraform bits and pieces of Earth. And we often don't get to see normally in speculative fiction. There's a lot of for a lot of action, it's aliens come to Earth and there's a big fight starts and then we just go straight to the fight. um there's also in speculative fiction where um a singular alien or a few aliens in a small craft arrives on on Earth, and it's more or less like a comedy of errors. Not that it's comedic, but it's like humans meet alien. I'm looking at you, E.T. I'm looking at you. What's the show? Comedy movie, Paul. There's others where you. There's one where there's a ton of them. Movies in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where a singular human being comes to Earth and they have special powers, and they run around. They usually befriend a human or a number of humans, and they take that person and run around. There was a television show, and I can't remember the name of it, where there was a human being that was alien. Man, Kevin Spacey did. Kevin Spacey. He did a movie, K-Pax, where you weren't sure whether he was an alien or not till the very end of the movie. I'm not going to give spoilers away where you find out he was in a mental institution. So you usually have these smaller stories, but you very rarely have aliens on Earth and they've been here a while, and we're just starting to try to accommodate their presence, and they're trying to accommodate with us. Much more closer to Alien Nation and District 9. And I think that'd be kind of cool, because then you could start taking real locations on Earth and kind of like terraforming them a little bit, and come idea like, well, how would people relate to them? Would there be governments that would be in constant conflict with them? How would aliens relate to us when we have constant conflict with each other? Would they just ignore it? Would they try to solve it? Or maybe they don't even understand it. There's a funny series of comics called The Mosaic, um, written back in the mid to late 90s, maybe early 2000s. Uh, it was a Green Lantern comic, and John Stewart, the Green Lantern, he's the Black Green Lantern, and uh, the Owens were um, they took and captured various societies from different alien species and put them together into a mosaic world, and had John Stewart watch over this mosaic world as Green Lantern. And the comic series was basically using aliens as a reflection of our own society. And they did take a chunk of Earth, along with these aliens. And it was a funny set of aliens that were like, they would take the worst aspects of humanity and then take it and like turn the volume up to 11. It was pretty hilarious. Like, at one point the aliens were riding around in like 1960s lowriders, like from as if they were like from Compton, California, and they were doing drive-bys and stuff, wearing like flannel shirts with them buttoned up at the neck and stuff. It was hilarious. But it was also trying to take a reflection of, you know, of some of the ridiculousness of humanity itself, and then throwing that back in our faces as aliens. And I love that idea. Mike says Babylon 5 was great for showing disparity in tech levels, and for showing some near human aliens who saw other species as truly alien. Yeah, yeah. There is that as well, right? Like, it's not always human versus alien, especially if you start having like these weird coalitions, or I'm calling it a coalition, but it could be aliens out there could have their own interactions or unequal interactions, and then when they come to Earth, maybe one alien sect is like, you should really join us because they need help against the more powerful or more influential or more insidious aliens that are out there. And human beings don't we don't like we're looking around like, I don't know, you all of you guys look different than us. Yeah, human, Narn, Minbari, Vorlon, for example, for in Babylon 5. Yep, yep. Different tech levels, different, maybe just general different capabilities. Maybe some aliens are just generally more powerful than others. In fantasy gaming, we see that as well, right? Like there, some choices are for player characters, and other choices they aren't. And you're sorry, they're just better at a thing than the rest of us. Um, and or maybe there's a population difference. And aliens, we have to think like if aliens come to Earth and they want something, what is it that they can't get from where they're at? Some of that are resources. We have plenty of stories where aliens come to Earth and they're trying to steal a resource, but maybe that resource is something different. Uh, Excuse me. Maybe they want to breed with us. There's also again the terraforming idea where Earth maybe has enough um, variety amongst other alien worlds to be a thing. There's also the idea of, there's a movie, Valerian of a Thousand Worlds, a City of a Thousand Planets, or something like that. I don't remember the entire name, but maybe there are aliens that are come into our solar system or whatever, and they're just like, hey, we want to invite you into our location, or maybe human. We sent astronoids. We sent astronauts, cosmonauts, or what have you, various naughts out there into space. We make first contact, and those aliens are like, "Great, we'd love to invite you into our problems," and change the definition of what it means to have all these different alien races combined together. And of course, it was like a giant alien space station that was, growing and growing and growing as they incorporated more and more alien species. And so, of course, they each had their own habitats and different neighborhoods and things like that. Um, Again, I think you could have some fun times with it. Also, the blending of aliens, like for example, having aliens, armed with AK-47s, human beings riding on the back of alien species, and having a lot of times we can default to using alien species as being humanoid like versions of, say, animals that we don't understand, or making aliens that are adapted to different types of gravities and radiations and different planetary surfaces, and then bringing that to humans. Like maybe humans are able to attach multiple arms on themselves, or have an alien species living in their eyeball, or other kinds of body horror that I don't like, but that freaks me out, but I think is still kind of cool. Again, with the defaulting into psychic abilities, a lot of games, maybe it's just because magic seems so very, um, I don't want to say use the word alien. Magic seems very ancient history to us and fantasy realm, whereas psychic abilities always seem like aspirational for humanity. That if only we could use more of our brains and our brains get bigger and we get smarter, that eventually our brains are ones where we could reach out with just simple thought to affect the world around us. Um, and maybe that's why psychic abilities tends to lend itself further towards high technology, gravity. I mean, high technology, advanced societies, and things like that. But still, most role playing games have some kind of fantastical element to it, and just giving player characters maybe a limited ability to acquire those things might be kind of cool. Um, mm, mm, mm. I think lastly, let's turn this down. Let's show some other images here. I'm going to share this instead. Um, Lastly, I would say that you know, one of the problems, and I say problems in quotes because um, enroll technology and aliens and trying to keep track of everything can seem a bit complicated for individuals who want to run science fiction, but they feel it's too daunting because they have to keep track of so many things. And I think instead of doing that, you could do something like um, Alien Nation, the show Colony, or the television show V, where yes, it has to deal with aliens, but really it's about us. In the television show Colony, short synopsis: aliens come to Earth, and what they do is they create these giant-sized walls, and they start sectioning off chunks of humanities separate from each other. And the show is about how humans handle it because s- there's a big beam of light that shoots down from the sky, and you're you're never quite sure, are they human beings are being taken up to the aliens, and you're not sure why. And in the show they don't really tell you why, at least in that first season, or at least the first episodes I saw. And so you have these sycophants that are trying to jockey to become friends with the aliens. There are some people who, where they were sectioned off, they have better living conditions than other living conditions. There are people who are trying to get together to become a rebel force, a bit of a rebel faction or insurgents against the aliens that are affecting them. And even amongst all this, the communication with the aliens isn't very good. And so you have human beings who are, there are short Twilight Zone stories where aliens come to Earth, and then they throw in a monkey wrench, and then they get to see what happens with human beings, which might be the whole point in and of itself. You might have a story where, you know what, the aliens just want to see how will they react when they meet us. And so the aliens are just sitting up in their ship watching, and the human beings are running around trying to, like, much like the movie Arrival. It's like, oh, d- they somebody wants to take a nuclear bomb and take it up into the alien ship simply because they can't communicate with them. There's in the movie Contact, they did the same thing where you had uh, a terrorist cell, trying to destroy the machine that was going to make contact with aliens for, destroy them for religious reasons or something. You're definitely going to have human beings that are going to be fanatical in their ideology, whether it's to befriend them, to be part of them, be taken off of Earth, to become the aliens themselves, to be their agents on Earth, to learn from them as scientists, to learn their culture, to understand why they're here. And your human being characters might be like, we don't understand any of this. Maybe we're just a police force or something. What's another show? 4400. 4400 was another show where human beings were abducted, and later on they're all returned to Earth, and they are all changed. They all have their minds expanded, and they all have different capabilities. And how do human beings react to them? So I think all of that, while it does sound like it's not very House of the Dragon-ish, I could see human factions, starting to become a thing, where you have a purely logical, pragmatic, scientific faction on one end. You may have another faction that's like, "Hey, we want to be like the classic Star Trek of Vulcans, where we must release our moral and emotional chaos to become like these aliens." And then you have others who are, maybe they're just criminals and they just want to steal alien artifacts and devices and sell them on the black market. Um, you could have criminal factions, and you're going to have governments that want the same thing. They're like, hey, listen, we might be friends now, but we want the nuclear option as well. Um, to be able to find the weakness that the aliens have, so that just in case we aren't friends any longer, we can take them out. Um, there might be mercenary factions on Earth, where they're like, listen, we're kind of like half human, half alien, and we're just here to make some money. And we're here to, hey, the highest bidder or the most influential individuals, okay, that's it. We'll go ahead and murder kill for you guys. And so on and so forth. And, layering and bits and pieces of like terraforming on Earth, so you could have weird jungles with strange animals and flora and fauna that reside in different places around Earth, whether it's in the deep oceans or thick jungles or I don't uh, lake-filled calderas with aliens living there, or maybe they're just aliens living in strange places or doing strange things on Earth, maybe digging tunnels to try to get down to the core of the Earth, or putting uh, I don't know, alien bases on the moon, and you look up at the moon like, are they building a city up there? And human beings trying to get up there, and or the aliens put out a message that says something strange like, "Oh, by the way, Peru, Nevada, and Madagascar are ours. Please don't come, but every other place is yours." And you're like, wait, why did they pick those places, and why can't we go? And what do they mean? Because that's going to be a normal human reaction, right? Don't tell me what I can't do. I'm going to go ahead and try to do that anyway. Um, we human beings love to be contrarians because we hate being told what to do. No, even if it's for our own, even if it's for our own good, we don't like being told what to do. Since the beginning of time, and that might be a thing as well, especially if the aliens are like, "Listen, just do what we tell you to do, and you'll live." Um, I At the end of the first season of the 4400, it was pretty funny because the humans were being uh, captured, being abducted by aliens. Then they all got deposited back on Earth, and then come to find out that there weren't aliens that were abducting human beings; they were actual human beings from a different time period. And it was like, yay, we found out the answer. Wait a minute, hold on, that didn't answer anything. Mike says, thinking on alienation, even the aliens in that were the slaves of a more advanced species. Yep. They were used as minors and were fed a biochemical drug to placate them. And that's the tech that comes up, those blue pills. Yeah, yeah. Alienation. That's really I kind of missed that show because it was kind of cool with the two detectives, the alien detective and the human detective having to work together. And of course um he- they butted heads because the detective really didn't like the aliens, and they come to like each other to understand each other. Uh, Three body problem. Yeah, Thomas Anderson says that was a premise, it seems, of a number of alien movies where you have a group show up, and the reason they are coming is because they are running from someone far worse. Three body problem is almost like that. Yeah, I have never read the books, but I hear in our modern selection of science fiction, the three body problem books that involve that are very good. TA goes on to say their issue is they expect us to fight quietly, um, and not make noise for the dark forest to find out them and uh, to find out that them and I are here, and it works to threaten them with that cry for a while to keep them from taking our planet from us for a while. Just don't look too deeply into it, or you will realize the writer, being Chinese, was using the Trisolarian aliens as an allegory for the CCP party there in China. Yeah, well, you know what? That's not uncommon in speculative science fiction. It's usually science fiction has always been. I think this is pretty ridiculous when people say I don't think there should be politics in my science fiction. I'm like, it's always been that way, right? It's always taking a look at a reflection of ourselves and using aliens and far future and high technology to tell the story of what if things were different, or telling a story of, hey, this is what things are like here. What happens if here's a way for me to tell you that there's an issue with it, by instead of pointing fingers at you, we're pointing fingers at aliens. Again, I'll bring up the idea of the um, this is a mix of Babylon 5 and Star Trek, where in Babylon 5 you had two factions that were wearing different um they hated each other, even though they were basically the exact same aliens, and they were wearing certain uh, I'm going to call them medallions or whatever. And it anyway, hilarity ensued when one of the humans was like, "Oh, well, why don't you just take this off and put it on the other one because you're exactly the same way?" And it caused this huge outrage, right? And in Star Trek, it was similar, where the aliens were painted, one half was white, one half was black, but which side was black, which side was white was different for the other side, and it was pretty ridiculous. And it was a very on your nose kind of thing, like, yeah, yeah, racism is pretty dumb, uh, all things considered, right? Yeah, um, yeah, racism pretty stupid, pretty darn stupid when you really think about it. Also, um, being able to look at society, political issues, always helps with aliens and science fiction because a lot of it, much like modern day looks at post-apocalyptic um, stories, is that people feel like our society is held together by a very thin thread, and we see this in our own financial systems, right? If we all believe it works, it works. The minute people stop believing the thing works, laws, civil discourse, that we are that we feel like we are far more advanced than monkeys or whatever, and you realize that we're not too much different than than beasts, right? That instead, it's a thin line between a very thin line when it comes to uh, um, when we start to eat ourselves. I look at you, uh, pandemic, when people hoarding toilet paper. you know. Mm-mm-mm. Let's see. Mike says, getting back to District 9 as an example, there's zero chance I'll offer my PCs the chance to pilot an alien mech. Yeah, that kind of. I love District 9. That movie's brilliant, but the alien mech did kind of come out of the left field. I love the idea that it was in there, but yeah, quote, you have to be part bug. Yep, my players would be jamming whatever alien tech they had. Yes, they would. Yeah, you can only pilot this if you have alien blood. And before you even got that sentence out, they're like scrambling around the game world, like, there's got to be something I can inject in me to get a mech with micro missiles and all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unless you're specifically playing like uh Mechton or Mechton 2 from our Talsorian games, or Battletech, or the Mecha Hack, or something where your game is specifically about playing giant robots, or at least robots a little bit more effective than human beings. I like robots that aren't much taller than, say, twice human size, a little bit smaller. While I love the Pacific Rim movies, I just saw Pacific Rim Uprising, which I think is a little bit better than people have given it credit for. I know there's some ridiculousness parts of it, um, but yeah. Mike Marin says, I read an interesting 40K fan theory about some aliens reproducing through memetics. So first contact resulted in not only conflict, but necessary memory removal of the event to prevent being conquered. Ooh, yes. Memetics, basilisk hacking, um, aliens. This slightly X Files ish, where maybe aliens don't arrive here in giant spacecraft, but maybe they have always been here, or they travel through genetic reproduction, maybe um, an aerosol in the atmosphere, or they human beings see code that then starts to change their mindset, which changes their DNA, which human beings start to grow into aliens or something like that. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, it, I like the idea of that because it seems very sick and insidious. Um, Side note: an individual, it's not his real name, but it goes by Vince Shine. Wrote a role playing game about playing parasitic aliens that have infested humanity, and you play a parasite that has infested a human or a number of human beings. And I thought it was a great role playing game, and I hope it comes to. I hope it becomes a thing one day. I've actually got access to it, but I would never steal it. But I want to see this thing become a real thing where you play a parasite and a human being. So your character's kind of like based off of two separate entities. Kind of cool. Very um body snatcher ish, which is another kind of way for. I mean, that's more insidious, but there's another alien contact where human beings are being stolen, um, and being replaced. That kind of stuff. Thomas Anderson says the three body problem was put out as a TV series. If anyone is interested, on Tencent YouTube video channel. Tencent, the government megacorp. Yeah. Um, Mike says, "Let that be your last battlefield in Star Trek." Yeah. TA says, "As for being friends, what if we had an asteroid or meteor hit that carried a biological organism that those infected with it become emotionally connected? So fighting is very limited, or both entities end up dying from suffering damage they inflict on the other entity they infected. Something I came up with over hearing voices being possibly tied to toxoplasm parasite infection. If there's I was going to do a week of The Last of Us and what we could steal from that as well. Um, and yes, it's possible alien contact might not be in the classic sense, like it may not even look or even act or sound like us. It could be they could be viral in nature or something. We don't know. Um, talk about racist sapient trees and things. Yeah. Um, I know this sounds silly, but even the Transformers is alien contact, right? They you know mechanical beings look at Earth and they go, "Wow, look at all the mechanisms and the weird biological things that happen to get inside of them. That's weird, but hey, look at all the cars and planes and computers and things. They must be advanced as we are, right?" um, as silly as the Transformers is, who's to say that an alien society of what was the show? The Orville. What an excellent television show. The Orville had the Kalons, and the Kalons were in a robotic alien species. Dark origins, right? But yeah, absolutely. Yep, yep, yep. Mike says, "So you like the mech suits from the Matrix? They're basically battle suit exoskeletons. Heck yeah, yeah, yeah. They were. I know that was so divergent from what we really wanted in the Matrix which was all the Neo action and stuff like that. But I liked the mech suits. I thought it was well done. Mm-mm. Is that way they vary diverse cultures and biologies and can coexist without wiping each other out. Talking about biologically adapting to our world, but in different ways, like maybe through animals or plants, um, things like that. I think that would be a great idea too. TA says, problem with the parasite that can link people mentally. What happens when you hear someone else's mind's thoughts, but having no idea where the thoughts are coming from? Exactly, and the thoughts you don't know where they're coming from are being very helpful. It's one thing if those thoughts are horrible, but if it's giving you maybe faster reaction times, or being able to see into magnetic spectrum, or healing very quickly from injuries, or not needing any sleep or something like that. A lot of that stuff could we could be benefiting from that. and those that are air quotes infected or bonding with these things might be different. Yep. Mike says invasions take many forms. We've seen the fleet of ships thing many times. Yeah, but invasion of the body snatchers was done via interstellar pollen. Yep, Life Force. I remember that movie. Life Force went on to examine our monster mythology as alien vampires. Yep, absolutely. And listen, the it even if we want to make the aliens insidious, it doesn't need to be an all or nothing win loss, right? Much like human beings fighting against an alien invasion, maybe the aliens didn't realize, or the alien miasma that comes to Earth, maybe it's going to take 100 generations. Maybe it'll take 1,000 years to take effect, and we're just living through it. I've brought this up many times where, we tend to be too overly creative, and we want to take an equation and get to the end and solve the thing, but living through the thing is the fun part, right? And fun meaning the dangerous part. Sure, the aliens will probably win overall, but we don't know that that's true unless we play it out. When in doubt, role play it out, right? It's yes, we all know that firearms dominated modern culture, but how long did that take? There are many people who were like, firearms, this isn't going to be a thing, right? Let's stick with bow and arrows and crossbows. Just like the automobile, there were people who lived and died and were like, nah, the automobile's not going to work. Mike says the blob was an amoeba trapped in a meteorite. Yep, day of the Triffids were spires carried on a passing comet. Yep, 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 yep. TA says the toxoplasm. I'm going to pronounce it Gon Gondi single cell parasite being used to condition organisms is more of a prepping for joining a galactic empire. Yeah, rather than conquering them. Yep. Otherwise, you get excluded for being too dangerous by not being connected. I like that idea because it mixes and matches it doesn't make it black and white, right? It's like it also leaves the question, as human beings, would we do something that seems dangerous? Joining a hive mind, transforming our bodies, eradicating pieces of our memory. Would we give up one thing for the question, the unknowable on another thing? And I would say there's a lot of human beings. Listen, no, if I'm not putting down drug addiction or addictions of any type, but we know that a portion of that is escapism. If you had real aliens that told you, hey, take this thing and you can escape, I bet people would say, you had me at take this thing, right? It's like, oh, you don't have to tell me twice. you know, Let me take the thing so I can get out of my own life to become something bigger, better, something different. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, heck, there would be people who give up their lives to at least step foot once on an alien vessel of some sort. And we're talking classic vessels. I'm not talking about alien spores. There is a role playing game, Degenesis, where meteorites slammed on the Earth and released alien spores. And it technically isn't about aliens per se, but about how human beings are surviving in a post apocalyptic world. And it's called Degenesis because it's like devolving human beings rather than evolving, although that's in the eye of the beholder, right? But I like that idea, TA. Um, Mike says Maximum Overdrive had an alien craft controlling all our machines. Is Maximum Overdrive the? I'm thinking of something else. There's a role playing game um, that's a bit gonzo that has every apocalyptic event happens on Earth at the same time, and you play a character who has capabilities to deal with one of those, whose special ability is to deal with one of those apocalyptic events. And one of those apocalyptic events, of course, is alien arrival. alien domination. I think there's also like zombie apocalypse, nuclear war, civil unrest, um, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, Gaster. To serve man. It's a cookbook. Yes. Yeah. I don't know if anybody remembers that old Twilight Zone episode, I believe. I think it was also a short story where aliens come to Earth and the aliens, it's a very short story. Aliens come to Earth and they start solving all of our problems. And an emissary, human emissary, starts talking to the aliens and it's like, you know what, we really appreciate you doing all this for humanity, solving all of our problems, but we'd like to understand why. And he's like, well, it's because of this book. And the human sees the book and it's like, How to Serve Man. And and you're like, oh wow, that's really good, thank you. Maybe it's like their religious text or something, how to serve humanity. And then they realize, like, we're kind of getting lazy and fat. We're getting a little pudgy around the middle here. You've taken away all of our crime, and we're not struggling anymore. And the aliens like, yeah, flip, flip, flip. Yeah, How to Serve Man. It's a cookbook. Yep, yep, yep. Mike says, "Heck, we one could blend this topic into another. What if Pugmire occurred because an alien virus killed humanity and elevated our pets?" Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. Tom Ta says something I thought about too. Yeah, electricity was thought to be a fad that would pass for years too. Yeah, I feel like that's the sweet spot to for adventure, right? Yes, we know what the end result will be, but that middle part, that middle, like, what happens if, I think is awesome. Um, mm, 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 Mike says Abyss discussed whether aliens have been here all along. Best line was hands up. Who thinks that was a Russian water tentacle? Yeah, yeah. The Abyss. Um, the weird ending of the Abyss kind of took me out. That twist where the thing came about, that was really weird. But yeah, what if aliens have been here the entire time? You know, Gaster Two Soul, what's going on there, bud? Says I like the idea of instead of an alien invasion, they give a small amount of humans a specific amount of power. Yep, perhaps something supernatural or superhuman. So they allow the humans who are the stronger to either outbreed or kill the non-powered humans as a way to help the humans speed their evolution to a Type One civilization. Yeah, K1. Always thought it would be cool to make a role playing game called Kardashev One. If anybody understands the Kardashev levels, but yeah, what happens if a select group of humans have been elevated? And it's the X-Men problem, right? Mutation. Some human beings are elevated above others, and now and you could turn the dial on that. Some of that superhumanness could just be faster reaction times, smarter, a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit healing, or you can go full X Men, right? Flying through the air, blasting flames, whatever case might be. But yeah, regular human beings would be like, "Ooh, yes, you're bringing us into a new age, but um, a lot of us think we are the heroes of our own story." And many people would go, well, that would be awesome if we are advanced and we evolve into a new realm. But if that leaves 90% of the population dead and the gifted 10% get to rise up, what if you're part of the 90%? You're like, this sucks, dude. I'm not giving up my life. So y'all got it better. The hell no. Yeah. TA says the arrival of toxoplasmosis happened sometime during ancient native culture of Aztecs and Mayans, etc., and a very major change in the course of culture happened afterwards. Before they were peaceful and were advancing tech like obsidian cutlery as well as surgery to heal. After this infection, they started human sacrifice, etc., and devolved culturally. Ooh, that would. Um, there's a ton of ancient alien TV series about, like, basically how did humans do a thing? And my brain just absolutely farted right out of my ears. How did human beings have the capability to do a thing that we can't do today, and some feel that might be ancient aliens that have left, which would be kind of cool to explain both the past and future. Where yeah, there were ancient aliens. They left. They thought, hey, give them something and see what happens. And when they come back, they go, what the hell? What, you ruined everything. You could have had so much, you know, which would be pretty fun. Riffs. I like riffs because it's ridiculous. I like riffs. For those who don't know, riffs, the Palladium role playing game, is ley lines gain power on Earth, and those ley lines blend other planers, other worlds, and other planes of existence onto Earth. So you could travel around Earth and go to like one place that's high technology, another place that's with dinosaurs, another place that's Tolkien fantasy, another place that's so on and so forth. And humans have to live in those places, and even some of them, like the coalition states, even fight against those dimensional beings to try to keep Earth safe or dominate it. Yep. Yeah, just as humans were getting on ships to go to the alien world, someone translates more of the book and finds it's a cookbook. What if aliens were one of us? Yep, yep, yep. Or maybe all of humans are aliens, and they're like, "Hey, you got to join us." And humans are like, "No, we don't join you. We're not related to you." And the aliens are like, "Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are." Um, it. I wonder if someone could design aliens that are the strangest, different, and weakest parts of us as human beings. So, um, us getting older, us having mental issues, human beings looking different, human beings having whatever, anything, hair, eye colors, height differences, weight differences, whatever. Maybe those are literally aspects of other alien species. Um, and wouldn't it be funny if we human beings are all the same genetically, right? It's just slight variations with height, eye color, hair texture, whatever. Um, but what if those differences are actually different alien races, and we blended together, but the other aliens didn't? And we consider ourselves to be one peoples, and the other aliens are like, you were never supposed to be one peoples. which would be which that would please many human beings on Earth, but it would also throw it into the face of like like, well, you're aliens, you're not gods. And they're like, the aliens are like, we kind of are. All right, we get to the end of the show. Ta says there's that whole, but they would kill all other alien life in the universe, so they keep all the energy here for themselves to survive as long as possible, but that energy can't be conserved. Yeah, yeah. Stars will still burn no matter what and extinguish. So, raising as many alien cultures to a high scientific state to work collectively to solve the entropy of the universe problem for all. There's I'm going to make this. I'm going to give this to you guys to think about. The longer you live, immortality, right? The longer you live, the greater chance you have that you're going to die. Think think about that for a minute, right? The longer an alien species, humanity, lives, the greater chance that a something terrible will happen. um Galactic explosions, background radiation, gamma ray bursts, random black hole, like the that could happen, and the death state, the entropy state of the universe from an expanding. So the longer you live, the greater chance you have to die. That's pretty crazy. Gaster Two Souls says, I also mentioned that I like the idea of implementing alien or science fiction concepts within a fantasy setting, which has been done a lot more than we think of, such as a godlike species sending down a certain weapon to affect the flow of history or change something that fit to their favor. Oh, hell yeah. Um, I have an old review of um, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. Let me see if I could find that image. Uh, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks by Gary Gygax. Let's get an image. Throw that up here. Yeah, yeah, I have this. I did an old review of it, and it was literally this took place in the Greyhawk setting in the Barrier Peak Mountains. On the other side of which little did people not know, on the other side of the Barrier Peak Mountains was the first implementation of Dark Sun before it became what we know of as Dark Sun. But anyway, in the Barrier Peaks Mountains, there was an alien spacecraft that landed uh, inside of the mountains, and you adventured into the spacecraft. Uh, uh, Pathfinder is the same thing. Pathfinder has the same thing. Iron Gods, I think it's called. TA says that concept is what you find in the Starrigger trilogy. Is what the road builders of the Skyway are doing, drawing on the minds of all species to make a giant collective of entities. And I like TA's idea here because it's like, what if the collective is a good thing, but to get to collective is pretty horrible to do. I mean, from our own point of view, right? I like that. Yeah. Or my most favorite death: getting struck by lightning a million times. Yep. Thomas Sanders says, "Yeah, Don DeChancy Starrigger is what I based my role playing game, quote, the Skyway and the Aliens on." Some might remember me mentioning it. No, 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 you're fine. Anyway, look, we're getting to the end here, going on and on and on. You guys know what I'm saying. By the way, that image you see up on the that I post up there. Yes, that is a mind flayer. Yes, it is wearing a spacesuit. Yes, it does have some kind of strange square type of like energy beam kind of thing in its hand. Yes, it is doing a mind blast, and yes, it probably has some kind of grenade in its hand. And yes, those are player characters trying to attack this thing. Pretty cool. Bellows of Souls. When did they do that? Expedition Barry Peaks for 5e. Didn't know that they had something like that. Let's visit this for just a moment. Let's see. Somebody translate it, and we're getting pop up ads. This is bullshit. Oh well. All right, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Uh, yeah, everybody's got a jet. Everybody got guys, squid people. Hell's yes. Gotta love the squiddies. Guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. I just thought it's Future Friday. I just thought this would be just kind of fun. And no, we're not doing all that. Thank you very much for being part of Future Friday. Next week, I thought we would talk either about, I don't know whether we're going to talk about RRR, the movie Triple R. Fun ass movie. Yes. Let's see. Let's see if we can mm, 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 put something in here. Let's see if we can want those images, and there we go. There we go. Maybe we might take a look at the movie RRR because it's so fun. If you haven't seen the Not Too dance, you got to take a look at that. Please, please, please. Hey man, no, thank you, guys. Have a great one. We'll get into a lot of fun stuff next week. But we'll probably do RRR. Then we'll maybe after that we'll do The Last of Us. You guys know I like doing this long form. So guys, have a great one. Oh, last but not least, I was on the Mechanical Muse YouTube channel for as a consultant and writer for the Cool Name Goes Here tabletop RPG. I don't know if you guys know that, but I'm part of a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter was successfully portrayed. Let's see if I can. I don't know. See if it's going to. Let's go to. Uh, damn it. Cool name goes here. Let's go here and share this. Come on, Kickstarter, get there. No, that's not what I looked up. Yes, thank you. Here we go. Sheesh. There it is. So anyway, I'm part of the design team on this Kickstarter. The YouTube channel Mechanical Muse, run by Mark Tassin, is the individual, and I was on there. I didn't say anything you guys don't already know that I talk about, but if you have any interest in finding out the development of a cool name goes here tabletop role playing game that's going to be given away for free, please be part of it. I'm part of the design team. There's my smiling face here, but Robin D. Laws, Kenneth Height, all these Crystal Mazer, Eloy Lasanta, and a bunch of other people are part of this project, and I'm glad to be a part of them as well. So I know all of you know these other designers. If you don't know them, check them out as well. They have their own communities and projects they've worked on and things like that. So I'm glad to be part of them. I hope to learn a lot from them. So, guys, anyway, um, thank you very, very much for being part of the show. Um, lots of love, peace, and love. Thank you very much. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace.